welcome to today's episode of Mystic in the Machine. Hope everybody's doing well. Jake was away.
I am still recovering.
Yeah, we apologize. We had to miss movie club this week, but that wasn't my fault this time. It was Jake's fault.
Well, I was already booked, so maybe it was like our fault for booking.
Double booking things on.
Exactly.
But yeah, do you want to tell us about your fun stag do weekend?
Well, yeah, I went on a very typical laddie stag do with my cousins and some of my extended family and his friends and stuff, and my brothers. And yeah, it was a couple of days of lots of drinking in a seaside town in the UK called Bournemouth. It was very
where is Bournemouth?
Just
I feel
almost
like I should know this.
It's almost like basically just directly south. It's like middle south England on the coast.
Is it a big town?
Not really.
It's a small town.
Pretty small.
On the coast.
Pretty small.
How far away from Kent is it? I'm trying to put it in my head.
Probably like 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, so it's that far.
It's like middle down, yeah.
Oh wow.
Kent is like out that way, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm a London centric human being.
Yeah.
So
anything outside of London, you're just
really
like,
care.
oh wow, oh look at this.
I'm like, how whimsical, how quaint.
Look at the Shire.
Well, so how was Bournemouth?
Very, it was good weather. It was by the beach. It was nice. It was just a lot more drinking than I would usually do.
Yeah.
But it was good fun.
Yeah, sure.
It was good fun. There was more adults doing other things as well than I expected, which was interesting. So maybe next time I won't be like, oh yeah, I should just drink a weekend like a mug.
What, people were doing drugs?
Yeah. It's just like, oh fuck it.
Why do you assume everyone's a straight edge all the time?
I don't know. I think it's more just you don't want to be the dickhead that is too high or something, and then they don't want to let you into the club or something because you're obviously on pills or something, and then it's you've fucked up your cousin's whole shit just because you didn't want to drink. It's
so
that
what
feels
was
stupid.
it? Just a pub? Was it just a pub crawl, or did you go to a club?
There were some clubs in Bournemouth, which I think is mostly just for I think there must be a university. There must be a university there, and it's mostly kind of university students and stuff,
Okay.
But
so there's not much of a.
But that was the difference. I'll tell you that there was the difference with London and Bournemouth was that a lot of the young people you saw out in Bournemouth were actually in their 20s.
Oh, okay.
Whereas all the young people you see in London are actually in their mid 30s.
Yeah, true.
Or
true.
40s with plastic surgery. And they're just all posing.
And Ozempic as well.
And they're just posing because that's the only people that can afford to go out to any of the cool places in London.
True. Well, at these clubs, what was the vibe? What was the vibe like at the club?
Generic.
Oh, yeah.
It reminded me of when I was 19 and you'd go to those clubs.
Yeah. And they always had shit names like Liquid.
Yeah, exactly. The one that we got rejected from was called Pop World.
Why did you get rejected from it?
I think apparently all the bouncers were in cahoots with each other, and we got kicked out of one place, and so that meant that we weren't going to get let into other places.
Another place. Why did you get kicked out of one place?
Because one guy, I can't even remember. I was too drunk, and it was literally nothing to do with me. And then you just sort of turn around and one of the lads is getting aggy with the bouncer. You're like, all right, boys, let's go. I'm fucking hungry.
Well, last week you were throwing trash on the Bachelor party's name. Has your mind been changed? Do you think the Bachelor party is a good male bonding activity?
Absolutely, I think it's a good thing. I think that after this we have all basically come away just being yeah, we should just go away for the weekend, us lot. Fuck this. We could have done this way better if we just organised it ourselves and stuff. We don't need an excuse of whatever this to kind of do it.
Get together, yeah.
Kind of set. Hopefully, gonna a little new tradition to sort of go away with my brothers once a year to go and do something together, which would be nice.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's kind of what it made me realise. But I think also it was just no food ingestion was planned in the itinerary.
Because a boy planned it. That's the reason why. I knew there was going to be some kind of logistical
not just a boy, not just a boy. Not just a boy planned it. Not just a boy planned it. Because Reese used a company or whatever that organised the pubs and all of the stuff, entry, all of these other things.
But it's not their job to make sure you eat.
No, but
job.
they put together the itinerary.
So you're supposed to plan the things in between the itinerary.
No, I think part of offering that service is, you're a big group of 20 lads. That's going to be tricky to get reservations and all those sorts of things for a big group of lads like that. We obviously specialize in doing big parties and stuff, so we know all the restaurants that can cater to the groups of your size, and we will try to get you a fucking booking for the dates that you want that line in with the things that you want. So there is literally like one meal. I would have liked one meal that was all of us together, like, but there was just nothing like that planned. So everyone just sort of like off, like just randomly getting a kebab or like fucking somewhere. Like on the last day, me and Jamie were just like, nah, can't do this again without any fucking like proper food.
So you were just drinking and like not eating?
Yeah, basically. But then we found this like really nice Asian noodle bar, and we fucking ordered like everything on the menu and just like had fucking a massive feast. It was delicious.
That's
it was
really
sweet.
Really good. That's really sweet. I had a girly weekend.
Nice.
With Mary, who's been on the show before.
Nice.
We were talking Freud and like witchy stuff, and Jung. Just chilling. It was really nice.
You and your coven.
Me and my coven of witches were catching up and discussing our big plans for the world. But yeah. Speaking of big plans for the world, big election year this year. We've not done a whole lot of tech talk for a while. Last week we did some tech talk, but this week we're going to do some more tech talk because obviously we're in a massive election year. We have elections in the UK and in the US as well. It's a big thing that everyone's talking about, but one of the things that nobody's talking about is AI, which I find pretty surprising. You think it would be something that would be in the mouth of politicians currently, and also in the mouth of like, regular working class people, considering how much it's going to change things.
Well, maybe. A lot of people are speculating that it's all a big gas bubble, aren't they? And it's going to pop. Like it's like big data and like a lot of these other things of the last few years, crypto, all the big tech things, have kind of been really blown up NFTs. To this crazy level, and then they've been like actually like not very groundbreaking and not very amazing.
It's easy to believe that, but when we actually look at the capabilities of AI, I feel like the proof is kind of in the pudding. Whereas with with things like crypto and things like NFTs and stuff, there wasn't as much proof in the pudding. But when you're talking about the capability of the technology, what it means for our economies, what it means for work, the meaning of work, all of these different things should be like on the minds of voters right now and like in the mouths of politicians, but it's not something that like anyone's talking about in any sort of meaningful way. The only politician I can think of that's somewhat savvy is Obama, which is weird because he's not in power anymore, but he's been sort of doing the rounds, making speeches at all these like tech companies. And also him and Michelle Obama made a film recently that was like on Netflix. They were like executive producers, I think, that was catastrophizing about cyber security attacks and XYZ. So he is somewhat, I guess, well versed, or at least the basics in like the current technological acceleration that's happening. But you don't necessarily see that with many of the sort of political figures and leaders right now. And then also you don't see that with workers either. And in terms of people starting to make demands now about how the shift can like benefit us. Because the shift is going to come regardless of whether we want it to or not. It's
because I don't think anybody has the energy to try and demand anything politically anymore.
Yeah, true.
Because so like almost everything's been just sideswiped.
True.
There was only one like good little political story recently. That was the whole Julian Assange like not, getting extradited.
Yeah.
One small glimmer of hope.
One tiny little positive thing that happened there. But he's still like in Belmarsh, like rotting, which is sad, but at least he's not being sent to America to get executed or whatever the fuck.
Exactly. Silver linings.
Silver linings.
But I think that is a contribution to sort of like how much people would be willing to invest in doing anything. And I think like that's even like the talk with the election in the UK is essentially let's get the Tories out.
Yeah.
And to what extent can we get the Tories out?
Well, it's twofold here. So, obviously the Tories have been in for like 10 years now.
12.
12 years?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, whoa.
2014, I think it was.
Yeah, fucking hell, that's crazy. Time flies.
Was it 2012?
Yeah, oh my, I don't even.
Yeah, it's 14 years, 2012,
it.
because it's Lib Dem coalition.
That's crazy. But yeah, they've been in for quite a while. Obviously, a lot of our institutions have crumbled under them. There's been a ton of austerity. It's just been a nightmare. There's been a ton of corruption, XYZ. So there's obviously like a lot of energy to get them unseated. But at the same time, you know, this week, Rishi Sunak announced that, you know, he was going to basically implement a new program that would enlist 18-year-olds into either community service or the military. And that was kind of a genius thing in the sense that it hits on a lot of cultural pressure points that distract people from the real issues. Number one, like the tension between the young and the old. So, like, you know, young people...
But it increases the attention
between
the young
does.
and the old.
Well,
young people don't really vote as much as old people, and old people aren't the ones that are going to be turning 18 and being sent up for military service, and they're more likely to vote Conservative. So, yeah.
Also, economic mobility, too. This is a sort of tactic that Thatcher used, because people are always puzzled about how a politician like Margaret Thatcher was able to kind of get working class voters on board. And one of the things that she was able to weaponize was the promise of upward mobility, the promise of being able to climb up the economic ladder, especially in a country like the UK where class differences are very pronounced and like stark. That sort of thing is quite energizing. And yeah, the idea of this military program that potentially like could provide upward mobility. That's kind of how it's being sold to the masses, is that it would provide upward mobility for those who are on the fringes of society, basically.
I don't know.
And it's also, and then thirdly, the other thing that it hits on is patriotism and shared cultural unity in that way, in that sense. And you know, that's also another wrench that's kind of been thrown into it. And instead of arguing about the things that matter, now you have Labour arguing about this issue and that issue, and it's like brought up all this like crazy shit.
None of it will ever be about anything important. None of it will be about making...
I think it's weird that we're arguing about this when, like, you know, there's all these technological accelerations happening currently that have the potential to really change the world.
Yeah, or the way you actually deal with democracy and whatever, right? Like, why, like, the point of having even a representative is that used to take several days ride on a horse to get your message to someone in power for your state or region or whatever the fuck to do anything about something.
Yeah.
We don't live in those fucking times anymore, and all of our systems haven't changed for hundreds of years to reflect any of the technology that we have to kind of improve upon any of those things, because all the people in power are too worried about losing any of it, basically. Because if you have proportional representation, that will change the number of seats and the leverage of power and all of those kinds of things within democracies all over the world. And so it's not even just like down to fundamental things around like how voting systems work and all things like that. I think like the way that I was watching like an interview with this lady called Carol Vorderman, who's like she used to run is it Countdown?
Yeah, it's like a British...
was it called Countdown?
Yeah, it was Countdown.
It was Countdown.
Like a trivia show, I think.
It's like a trivia show where they did like maths problems and like word problems and stuff like this.
And she also did like maths books for kids to learn. I just know her as the lady that was on the maths books that I had
She was a good-looking lady who was very clever.
Good-looking for British standards, anyway.
I think Carol Vorderman's all right. She's 64 or something. And when I saw her and she's like 64, I was like, brother, that's like pretty impressive.
Jake
has
a MILF problem.
Anyway, she's like, look, I think everybody's just like wants to get the fucking Tories out to the maximum degree, and we can figure all. But
why did you bring Carol Vorderman?
Because she did this interview. Because she did this. I was watching her do this interview. She's part of this like thing where they're like, we don't want to advocate for any of you to vote for anybody other than to get rid of the Tories.
Yeah.
And so to tactically like vote essentially to make it so that the Tories are not even big enough to be the opposition party.
Yeah. But it kind of just shows you what politics has devolved into. It's just kind of like...
And that will change the landscape of politics in Britain. And at that point, you can then start to go, okay, and now what do we actually kind of want? What are the important things? And I think that's kind of optimistic. I think that it will never change from all these wedge issues.
No. These wedge issues take precedent over even world-changing events, like the development of artificial intelligence and the effect that it could potentially have on our way of life, our economies, XYZ. You know, these are issues that we need to be talking about now.
Or the potential engagement with non-human intelligence and shit like that.
Well, we're gonna get to that later on. We'll get to that later on. But yeah, so talking about it on the actual like electoral politics side, blah blah blah. You don't see too many politicians talking about this. But then also in the people side as well.
I bring Carol Vorderman up because I feel like that she's she's kind of hitting the nail on the head with how a lot of people are feeling about politics in the country and about the election.
Yeah.
That nobody is really fussed about what anybody has to fucking say. They just want to see the back of the Conservatives and to see them gone.
I think that's a really stupid way to view politics and to view your engagement with it. You might as well not engage with it if that's the way you're going to view it. I think that if you are looking at the right issues, and the right things, and you're actually worried about the right things, you sort of already intuitively know that the political system is kind of insufficient as an apparatus to address the real problems. That's kind of how I feel. Like, I don't really care. I've not necessarily cared about the election season that's happening as much because none of the issues I care about are being discussed. None of the issues that affect me are being discussed. And none of what is being discussed sounds like the future and ways to kind of, you know, address this new kind of cycle that we're entering. It's all these like weird cultural wedge issues from like in America, abortion, which has been like raging since like it feels like it's like the 1990s again. It's this like wedge issue that like American politics it's just like Jerry Springer, literally. Mm-hmm. It's Jerry Springer. And it's even worse here because American style culture war has kind of taken root in British political culture. So nothing important is being talked about at all. It's literally just culture war and also topics that kind of bring up divisive emotions and feelings within the public.
But that's because there's nobody to give a genuine opposition.
Yeah.
You have...
Well, Jeremy Corbyn is running again as an independent.
Yeah, but not for... If you were to have an election, it wouldn't be as... he's running for MP, for MP, sorry, of North Islington.
Yeah.
He's not running for Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Or maybe, like, is that how it works? You have to do both at the same time?
I think so. He's running for Prime Minister. He's running again as an independent because he's been totally barred from the Labour Party. But
I think he's just running to get elected as the MP for North Islington.
Let's look it up.
Yeah.
Let's look it up. I'm pretty sure he's running again. That was what I heard.
He is running again, but just as the
but I don't necessarily have too much, like... I don't have too many eggs in that basket. I don't really think there's much hope on any electoral.
But the kind of point what you're trying to say, I think, with that was if someone like Jeremy Corbyn with any kind of actual genuine alternative, the political conversation wouldn't be as simple as it doesn't matter who, anybody but the fucking Tories.
Yeah.
It would be, oh look, this person has a vision of something different. And this person is trying to get more power and like stay in power, and it would not be like as pessimistic as it is now. Maybe.
Yeah. But going back to the whole thing about workers and everyday people, I feel like right now we have a very short window to make like a list of demands about how this new transition into this new kind of era is going to benefit and like affect us. But it's unfortunate because I think people are so blind to what's going on, like most people aren't savvy to what's going on, that this short window I fear will close and we're just going to be kind of dictated to. I feel like now is the time in that sense, but it's unlikely that that short window of opportunity will be seized upon. Especially when it comes to things like, because one of the things that's discussed around like artificial intelligence and automation is the concept of universal basic income. Do you want to kind of briefly explain that model?
Well, it's essentially pay every citizen of a nation enough money that would supposedly cover rent and basic necessities, so that a burden of living is no longer kind of dependent on your job, but only really, I guess, your standard of living would be.
And the argument from tech people who advocate this is that the money would be generated from automation.
Yeah, I think that, like,
excess
I think
profits.
already there's a excess profits. It's
Yeah.
such like a fucking wild fucking term.
Yeah.
Like, profit is already excess. It depends on, I guess, how much of a Marxist you are, right? But like, profit is already like, you've made everything back. Everybody's been paid their money that they would need to live, and then that is extra and surplus beyond that. Like, that's kind of the point of profit. No, like, I got a D in business studies, so maybe like, I'm not the greatest person to ask that.
But even then, the sort of, you know, argument that tech people make is that, you know, this new sort of shift in technology and in the economy has the potential to benefit, like, you know, everyone, which is if you look at that sort of utopian vision versus the way that it's currently being recklessly implemented in last week we talked about the whole Scarlett Johansson thing, but there are obviously bigger examples, more pressing examples, like people losing their jobs.
There's been a couple of videos about that on YouTube that have gone viral in the last week or so.
Yeah, what?
With a graphic designer did like a 15-minute video sort of talking about his experience, and then a guy this week did a video about him being a copywriter. Yeah. And
people in animation as well who have like worked to develop their skills for like 50 years, and like now their career is completely useless and they've been made obsolete. Sorry.
He said like he saw that the CEO of his company shared a post about GPT-3 one evening.
Oh my God.
And the next evening he got no emails.
Oh my God.
And then within 2 weeks he was fired, basically.
But that's what I'm saying, is that, you know, you have these sort of tech utopians in Silicon Valley that are making these sort of bold claims about how, you know, the shift in the technology and in the economy is going to benefit us all, XYZ. But the way the genesis of it has kind of like been so callous. And it's affected sectors that people have always viewed as quote unquote superfluous anyway. But like when it starts to affect everyone else, I think we're going to see more of a politicization of the conversation surrounding these technological accelerations. Currently, there isn't much politicization around it, even when it comes to things like regulation.
Because everyone knows that if they wanted to do something like that, they could do it now. Right, like UBI, this idea of excess profits of companies and all of this stuff, like all of this is stuff is like, you could do it right now. So no, they don't need an AI to implement that. This is like some sort of benevolent thing that needs to happen in all the hearts of the business leaders and like fucking world leaders around the West. Well, to just implement all of this. The idea
is that they would be forced to, because, you know, people wouldn't be able to work for money anymore because there would be no work. So it would be inhumane to just let everyone starve. But the way that things are kind of currently being implemented, like, you know, obviously harshly.
I don't think they care enough about other people to really worry like that.
I don't either. And I think people should be more concerned than they currently are, especially with the wave of layoffs, interestingly, in tech that have happened this year. You know, I remember back in the day there used to be these like day in the life videos on TikTok of like people working in tech and showing off their like cute offices and their like smoothie blah 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 or whatever. And now those videos are no longer there. They've disappeared because like so much of the workforce has been laid off, not just in tech, in a lot of other sectors. And yeah, I kind of foresee, this technological acceleration kind of worsening the current climate in that regard.
But I don't have any faith that any
and I'm
sort
surprised
of
that all I'm
UBI
saying is,
will be
well, I don't mean that. I
implemented.
don't mean that, but I'm just saying I'm surprised that in this year where there's so many elections happening globally, this issue is not on the...
No one wants to dangle the UBI.
Well, not just the UBI,
votes.
just like in terms of like AI, its development, how it's going to impact the world, the sort of impact it's going to have on workers, the kinds of demands that people want to make in their specific sectors surrounding what is ethical and unethical. Like, I'm really surprised that this year there isn't more, even when it comes to regulation. Think about the big Sam Bankman-Fried scandal that occurred in crypto. Think about, ethical questions surrounding AI image creation and all of these things. I'm surprised that none of this is being discussed. And I know that we're at war and there are other existential threats and things going on. But that's not even talked about as much as the culture war stuff. The culture war seems to dominate everything. And it's not as if this isn't an existential problem. It's not like a sci-fi, it sounds like a sci-fi movie, but it's not one. Like, it's reality right now.
I love how like immigration's become the biggest issue in the world again.
Yeah.
Like, conveniently just before the election, when most people in Britain don't like have to deal with any of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Like, immigrants, mostly they're going to come to London. They're going to come to places where there's jobs and stuff.
Well, that's not
And, like,
necessarily true. Like, most major cities in the UK are quite, like, Manchester, Birmingham, all of these different places are like really diverse, because like London is expensive. So, a lot of people are starting to move out.
All those major cities are already metropolitan areas though, right?
Yeah.
Which aren't going to be they're not going to be the people that are anti-immigration. That's my point. Like, all the places that are like anti-immigration are the places where immigrants aren't. Mm-hmm. Always.
Yeah. So what's your point?
Like, why? It's just like propaganda to rile people up over bullshit, over kind of things that are like somewhat real, but they end up like, not somewhat real, very real. Like, if it's like things like the housing crisis and stuff, but they will use that as an excuse for it, basically.
Yeah.
To get all these people that have no other cause to think why immigration is bad.
Yeah.
To then go, it's the number one thing that's the problem, and this is why all the house prices are this and that. It's like, what? I don't think it's because of immigration, dude. Immigration's not the problem.
Yeah.
With that.
It's like in America with abortion as well. This is all like based upon like weird cultural anxieties, and like the sort of gender war bullshit that's going on currently, like in the zeitgeist. And that's kind of a massive wedge issue that's kind of deciding the election. And a lot of the important things, a lot of the important shifts that are happening. This is like such a pivotal time for us to like, focus on those things, but like nobody cares about them. So I don't see why I should give a shit. That's kind of my attitude towards all of it. Like, I don't see why I should care, because nothing that I think is important is being discussed.
I think it's also like the whole world, is very potentially on the cusp of changing in lots of large ways. Yeah. Through technology and information and all this other stuff, that like make your own way of like how you think you're best going to survive it, because no one's got the answer, man.
Find your own Vinland, basically. Yeah. Create your own escape route out of Babylon. That's kind of how I see it.
Exactly.
At this point.
Exactly.
But it's both spiritually and like materially, if possible. That's kind of how I see it.
I heard a whole album by an AI rapper today. The speed AI music is evolving is weird. It is maybe I'll pull up what my favorite AI generated song, because it's really silly and funny. and made my other producer friend laugh a lot as well. But
is it the one that he made with Taylor Swift singing a Gnostic hymn?
No, because I don't have that one. It was one I sent him on YouTube. That made him go on that website and start to look at all this stuff basically.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so I'll find a link and I'll show you that one as well because that's funny. But yeah, the AI music shit is fucking crazy. Yeah. Like, I think a lot of people like at the moment aren't really worried about it because nobody's made anything successful or hasn't made any profit yet. Yeah. Off of purely AI generated music, and I think until there are kind of those Spotify playlists and stuff like that end up kind of becoming very good money makers that are very heavily AI generated and stuff like that, that's when stuff's really gonna start to, and even I think when the major music companies can find a way that they can profit from it, it won't be a big problem anymore. Yeah. Like that is the literal only problem that anyone has with it, is not anything to do with fucking philosophy or a creativity or anything, especially in the fucking music industry. I find it so laughable, the fucking statements that Universal Music and like all these companies put out. It's like, oh, we're so staunchly against AI. It's like, no, you tried to make a crypto AI generated rapper, but then you got cancelled because you used like black kids dance moves and a fucking white guy's voice or something. Yeah. And you played into the games and you got fucking bullshit and cancelled for it. And because your project failed, you're morally against all of the stuff. If the project had succeeded and you'd made a shitload of money from it, it would have been a business model you would have proceeded to pursue very avidly. So like, I don't believe any of it. It's all utter bullshit. And I think once the sort of stuff does get to the point where it is totally indistinguishable from a professional product, then you're gonna be in real trouble, man. You're gonna be in real trouble.
Why do you think Obama has been sniffing around Silicon Valley?
He always has. He's had that kind of relationship ever since he was a president. I think he's always been a bit of a nerd.
Because Elizabeth Holmes scandal happened under him, and he didn't directly get involved. But I remember Biden, when Biden was vice president, he endorsed her fucking fake ass company, Thanatos or whatever it was called. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong or saying it wrong. I can't remember what it was called, but the Obama. Because they had their whole healthcare reform fucking psyop that they were doing, in seeming as if they were sort of cozying up to Silicon Valley and looking at these new revolutionary technological healthcare solutions, made them look good, to the point where they didn't even investigate that this woman was a fraud. They didn't even fucking see that she was like using, I don't know, it was like a fax machine that was like made to look like a fucking prototype or some shit. Like, this is the extent to which they're involved. So I don't know if Obama's sort of orbiting of Silicon Valley is necessarily because he's well versed or well educated in technological development, or maybe he is. I don't know.
I think he's just interested in it. I think he's just like that. All the Illuminati people have a little thread of stuff that they're like, oh, that's like fucking really.
And also,
crazy.
Why would he make? I haven't seen the film that's on Netflix, but why would he make this really alarmist film about America being cyber attacked? And like, Michelle Obama also did an interview recently. Maybe we should try and find it, where she was catastrophizing about how, you know, the development of these technologies could potentially be a threat to our national security, to America's national security. And she was sort of, you know, listing all the reasons why she thought it was like a threat to America's national security, and sort of totally scaring people. Why do they want to scare people? And they're not, it's not like they're in power anymore and they can do anything about it.
I don't know. Anything that they want could be up to fucking as secure as they want it, isn't it? Like, everyone's fucking mortgages and banking and all of this stuff is through digital systems now. yet no one's like particularly fucking worried about every day that you're under some sort of threat that it's all just gonna like go to fucking zero or something, are you?
No.
So why would it be the same if like you have a digital method of anything else that's for something important? Do you know what I mean?
What does that have to do with what I said though?
Like with the AI stuff, it's like the people
I was
are worried
about Michelle Obama.
Yeah, she's like, oh, it's so cybersecurity.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, anything if it's because it's about election meddling.
Yeah, yeah.
That's her whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's her whole thing is about like, and because she's part of the fucking like democratic conspiracy theorists that like are trying to propagate the fucking Russia stuff. Not to say that nations don't fiddle with each other's elections.
They definitely do.
Because they 100% fucking do.
They're all their 3-letter agencies or whatever do all kinds of shady shit.
Yeah,
for sure.
All major nations certainly have a way of lobbying or, you know, subverting or doing or leveraging their influence in the way that they can for their interests with other people's elections and political processes.
You think that the Obamas are trying to stoke paranoia surrounding, you know, the sort of acceleration of these technologies in order to get people more aligned with the sort of American security state narrative? That's what's going on there. And it makes sense why they would make a big propaganda Netflix extravaganza in that sense.
It's like that will be like a digital voting system or something like that. That's like corruptible to, you know, influences or whatever. Yeah. Everybody's like things that govern all their lives is also run digitally, yet they all still work.
So I guess when we are seeing politicians talk about it, they're doing it in a way that like reinforces like security state, like narratives and
to try and get them to get another bill passed for another fucking crazy piece of technology which will let them spy on everybody or do some crazy shit.
Which is why I think it's important for people to keep a political eye on this stuff, because no one else is going to do it for you in that sense. But anyway, what's this thing that you've pulled up?
This is the little funny song that I found that is what's it? The AI song that I thought was really convincing. And then we'll go through some stuff in the chat. Hang on, let me see if this is going to work. So we didn't. Let me just get this real quick. But this is a little thing I found on YouTube after exploring some of the UDO and new websites that came around with recent things, and I thought it was absolutely nuts.
You won't get like copyright strikes.
No. That's almost kind of the whole genius of this stuff is that nobody has the copyright for it. It's like completely generated by a fucking machine. But yeah, the song is called "I Glued My Balls to My Butthole Again" by Obscure ST Vinyl.
I got my balls to my butthole again. Oh my God, what did I do? I can't take a dump, 'cause now my balls are blocking up my butthole. Fool me once,
this is great.
Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. Good God, I pulled too hard, now my scrotum's stretched out like a fucking yard. Oh God. Watching her man use a butter knife, face down, ass up, try and saw off the sack. Oh baby, fucking please just take me back.
Oh my God.
I grew my balls to my butthole, baby. Oh my God, what did I do? I can't take.
Oh my God, you should send that to your dad. I'm sure he would love it.
I thought that was fucking genius.
Oh my God.
And yes, absolutely. The fucking voices sound so weird, and like it's a MP3 from LimeWire in like 2005 or whatever, right? But this is the worst it's ever going to be from this moment onwards. And I think the way that it was able to come up with complete melodies, coherent instrumentation,
scary,
structured sections, and everything.
Yeah.
And no human being was involved in the creation of any of that stuff, which I find utterly fucking nuts.
Your producer friend, he made a rendition of the Gnostic poem Thunder Perfect Mind in the original Greek, sung by Taylor Swift. And like that was the prompt that he put in, and it literally sounded like exactly what it fucking said on the tin, basically.
It sounded pretty crazy as well. It was nuts.
Yeah. Crazy shit.
Amazon in the chat, darker pill, UBI will appear to meet your needs until your seamlessly calculated expiration date arrives. A feat of logistics.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Because, like, the sort of mechanized logic that's being implemented, does view people as superfluous,
J. George, I'm starting to use AI to make cover art for my tracks, and that feels like a big moral question to me. My dude, you are a fucking aspiring musician doing your thing on your ones or with a couple of friends. And if you've not got the cash to scrap together for someone to put something together for you, do not feel bad about embracing tools to kind of get stuff done.
My whole thing is, though, how are you being creative with the tool? Because I've seen you do stuff, and you've sort of taken a main idea or a motif or an outline of something, and then you've put it into Photoshop, and you kind of changed things and made it your own, and like made, whatever. Like, I don't think you should ever just take what it spits out. I think you should
for sure. But like,
to be creative
I'm by no stretch of the imagine. Like, I wouldn't even put Photoshop skills on a CV.
Well, you don't need to, because it's quite an idiot-proof software. Like, you just count yourself.
You'd be surprised.
Well, I mean, at least for
I wouldn't even put that on my CV. That's how little I regard my Photoshop skills.
But if you have enough skills with the software to produce something that you're happy with, that's all that matters.
If you know how to cut things out, basically, like, that is all you now need to know how to do, because you're just now layering different stuff that can look really great from Mid-Journey and like all of these different softwares and stuff. And even actually the last compilation album I put together, I used AI to generate like a good chunk of the kind of image of the album art, and then a lot of the details of it I kind of handcrafted in Photoshop.
Yeah, that's what I was
like
saying. And like, that's my whole thing, is like, don't let the ease of the tools stop you from being creative. That's like my whole thing. The only time where you should have moral qualms is when you feel as if you're betraying your own creative impulse, or you're sort of using AI tools as like a crutch to avoid being creative.
Greg, there is a label on YT called Supran Media. They have bands, rappers, singers, etc. They are all AI, and they sound pretty legit. I don't know what software they're using, but it's mad. I would probably say, bro, that if it's anything that sounds higher quality than what you've personally already found on those Udio sites and other stuff like that, then it is someone doing extra work and extra leveraging of stuff or of software of some kind. Like, even how I found that Udio software in the beginning was actually through a piece of software I use, an AI piece of software I use to extrapolate different things out of stereo recordings. And then I saw in an update that they had that there was this little brain symbol to generate new stuff. So I was just like, fuck it, just press the brain button. And then it sent me to a link to this Udio thing. And you find it there. But then once I'd generated the thing in Udio, it then would bring it back into this other software, so you could remix it and you could do all this other stuff, but it's not just the raw output. So don't ever think someone's like found some magic tool there. It's like, ta-da! Here's fully finished, finalized music that doesn't sound like an MP3 from LimeWire from 2005, because it's definitely not there yet. No single tool is there yet. It still needs a great, like the same way we were talking about with the Photoshop stuff. It needs the same kind of hand-holding with human touches still. Yeah. And that's kind of where the magic of it still is for a lot of the creation and the embracing of like these tools at the moment.
Well, we're both creative people in our respect, and we both, so that, and because George just said thank you for the advice. You're welcome. Yeah, we're both also in the same boat. We both do creative things in our spare time, and like I'm writing a book right now, and like obviously there's always the temptation to try and use language models as a crutch. And I have moral qualms with using ChatGPT for sure, because I feel like it kind of takes away my voice, and that's like important to me to like maintain my voice. But what I do use, one thing that is great for writers, is a transcribing AI tool. Sometimes it's really difficult for me to get things out onto the page, and it's easier for me to just talk whatever's in my head and then have the AI transcribe it and then go and like edit it later on. So that's the way that I use these tools in a way that I don't feel like compromises my creative ethics. I think you have to have your set of creative ethics as a creative person, especially now that there are all sorts of tools that make the process easier. If you don't have creative ethics, then it's going to like be very difficult for you not to use these things as like a crutch.
And like that super and media thing that you talked about, Greg, is basically someone that has no creative ethics in terms of the composition of music, and is purely looking to be able to pump out great sounding music as fast as possible. And now they have the ability to do that through all of these different tools and their skills with Logic Pro or whatever the fuck they're using. Which is like fair game to you, bro. I like enjoy the process of making music I like, and I fucking hate pop music. So I couldn't stand to sit there and try to craft a bunch of music, even with AI, that I didn't like, because it would just bore me, and it would really make me feel shit and cynical about it. Well, everything. I've only ever used it in ways that kind of tickle my own like fancies and creative juices. I think the real magic will definitely come with it, with some electronic producers and stuff being able to essentially create fake tracks that sound like they are from an era, and be able to then sample them and have no copyright issues and no bullshit with major record labels or anybody, because it's all actually sampled from AI. I think that's going to be some of the genius parts of it, and I definitely want to try and do some like Daft Punky stuff and like sample some fake disco that I've like generated from AI and stuff like that.
For me, with writing, I like to, I'm an editor. Like the thing I get the most pleasure from is the editing process. When I've got the thing down and I can now go in and sort of craft it. Same thing with like my video essays. The struggle is like writing the damn thing, but then the editing process is like really fun for me, and I really enjoy it. And like with the AI transcribing tool, it kind of gets rid of the brain dumping part that I hate. I can just sort of brain dump and then go and edit, which is the part that I enjoy doing. So yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using these things to streamline your process, so long as they're not conflicting with your creative ethics in any way. Someone says, what's the lip color, Angie? It's gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for one of the girlies to comment on the makeup. I do put like a little half an hour of effort in before the stream. It's actually a concoction that I made myself. I should have said that in the Julia Fox voice. But it's this weird Korean cream matte thing that I found at the Korean store, and I can't like pronounce it. And then on top of it, my favorite lip gloss. This is actually the lip gloss that they used for Arwen in Lord of the Rings. And it's Clinique's Black Honey. It's just the best. I carry it everywhere with me. It's just so versatile. And yeah, Arwen, it gives Arwen vibes. So yeah, you can have that one for free. And yeah, I think it's amusing to know that Arwen is a Clinique girly. So yeah, that's a bit of Lord of the Rings makeup lore for you. And if you're wondering how I know that, it was in the behind the scenes documentary. Have you ever seen it before?
No, I haven't.
Did you watch you didn't watch any of the extra like fucking
No, because the fucking extended cut is already like 3.5 hours. I've had enough Lord of the Rings at that point.
Oh man, no, I'm
I
such
don't
a
need to
nerd
see
for.
anymore.
I'm a big nerd for Middle Earth. It even comes down to the choices of makeup that gets on my face. But yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next topic. AI is obviously one element that's not necessarily been hinted on in this election. Another topic we like to talk about a lot is UFOs. And the last time that was really heavily used as an electoral kind of dangling carrot by a politician was way back in the before times of 2016 when Hillary Clinton sort of alluded to doing disclosure if she became president. Currently, there hasn't actually really been much discussion. No, there hasn't been much discussion, or has there been? Has there been any discussion?
I don't think there's really been
on
any
the election cycle surrounding aliens and disclosure.
No discussions around it with the elections specifically, but like all of the kind of recent crazy stuff that was being talked about.
Yeah.
Made it into the news in the UK. Made it sort of like into Congress with some legislation at the end of last year that kind of got gunned down and stuff. And there's been a lot more active politicians, like and really public facing politicians as well, that are kind of, even AOC was at the last like big hearing and stuff about it.
Did she get murdered there?
She didn't get murdered there, but she did ask a couple of questions, and she wasn't a snarky arsehole, and she was there with a bunch of Republican people, and they weren't like fighting and bad things. It was all nice. Like pretty. It's like
there was no sass being given,
and that's like the one interesting thing I think is that I think things like AI or like TikTok technology, it seems like technology, and then this aliens topic
seems
or
to have
whatever,
like a bipartisan
it seems to have a complete bipartisan. Yeah, we need to have a little look and think about this, like the TikTok thing that happened. All the Democrats and all the Republicans and everybody across whatever lines, everyone's just like, yeah, what the fuck is going on with that?
Yeah.
And this stuff, it has the same effect, and everybody's kind of interested in it and wants to get to the bottom of it. Yet I don't know. This is kind of what I wanted to pose to you. Like, I don't think it's really still gotten to the point where people, like any of the politicians, are brave enough to stake that they. I think that they don't want to stake that they would get voted in for it, because they also know that they can't make any further progress than what is actually happening at the moment. Like, what is happening at the moment is like they are going through all of the avenues and doing the thing basically. And like, what are they going to do? Like, I'll become the guy and just like release it all?
Well, I think that
would be bold.
I think that I think one of the things that you brought up was the fact that it's sort of this unifier of opposites, in this kind of mercurial sense, in the same way, and the reason I bring up mercury is because it's like Solve coagula. It's a whole alchemical thing. And UFOs also has this weird unifying ability. So that's like a really interesting element of it. But then it's never really at the forefront politically, and I don't think it ever will be unless something catastrophic, as they say, is unveiled. I think the only time where your average voter is going to give a shit about disclosure in any meaningful sense.
I think all of the rumors have now been kind of verified in as much way without any physical things being brought out.
Yeah.
That there's only that left to do now at this point.
Yeah.
Where I think...
But even then, like now there's war happening, there's economic crisis, XYZ. Ironically, the thing that could take people's attention away from that and have this sort of same unifying quote unquote effect is if something catastrophic did happen. But that's the only event where it would be a thing that people care about who aren't on the fringes. People have bills to pay. There's looming war. There's all kinds of crazy shit, and there's all this cultural war.
Not even just catastrophic.
Zeitgeist for people to focus on. So.
Not even just catastrophic. I think if there was like release of documents and videos and all the stuff that people rumored basically and said exist.
Yeah.
If all of that stuff materialized in ways that people go, fuck me, you can't deny that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And you can start to
it would have an alchemical effect on our collective consciousness.
Massively. And then
same way AI could, but the thing is the alchemical effect contains both corrosive and like, you know, unifying substances.
Well, I think that,
so we have to be conscious of what's happening, otherwise it's going to be a catastrophe.
You know how people say that there's like, it's always just like an everlasting fight between multiple facets of elites with different like interests and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think one of like the really schizo things, one of the schizo Masonic clubs they divide into is like the fucking Scientology, like satanic, like Mars, alien gods, like a Nazi stuff.
Yeah.
Or
that's a whole rabbit hole, by the way. Not everyone's gonna understand what you mean by that, but anyway.
Or not, or that these are things that we can engage with and we should learn about, whatever else, and it's a mystery and we need to kind of understand this thing, which is what I think a lot of the
interesting that you bring up
in the disclosure stuff are doing, like Gary Nolan the scientist and like all of these guys are the forefront of this thing, are not trying to push any kind of agenda of some kind of origin of it. They want to thoroughly like Jacques Vallée, all these guys, they want to thoroughly understand the phenomena, whereas people that have like an agenda about it, they are the ones still withholding and repressing this thing, because it's not at the point in which they can control the event narrative, and the catastrophic part of it can be in favor to them. If it is that the government is lying and all of this stuff that's rumored is completely true, then all of that heavily works in the favor for the other
basically,
the other Masonic tent.
What you're saying
the non-Mars Masonic tent.
What you're saying is that there are interests that want to control how this alchemical effect impacts humanity, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is like, now is that a very short
Amadan said, I think your audience understood him fully. There we go. No, thank you.
Okay, well, great. I'm happy then. I'm glad that the schizos have found us, because I don't know, we don't have that much audience interaction time other than in the Discord, so I don't know who watches us, but welcome to the Schizos Corner. Feel comfortable here. You're at home. But I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is that there are different interests that want to have control over the alchemical effect. That's such a sort of earth-shattering event, something that would make us drop the culture war red meat, that could even make us turn away from war, that could make us, look to the skies in a very numinous way.
Yeah, because all the like Gaia, ancient aliens, like fucking crazy, weird funded like shit.
Basically, Jake has watched Gigi Young's Mars mystery series.
I highly
recommend checking out Gigi Young's Mars mystery series, because she kind of goes into the parapolitics of disclosure and how it sort of affects the political realm.
But basically TLDR,
all sorts of stuff.
TLDR, real society, fucking Germany has this like fucking satanic like Mars like fucking like culty fucking idea, and then all these people basically want to use it and trickle it down in all these ways to fucking make the new religion, so they can make a new society, a new world order, basically, because that's what they believe is the genesis of like a truly new human society with different like belief structures and all of this other stuff, would be through like a new telling of the origins of man, basically.
Yeah, well, basically the idea is it's like a materialist overhaul of like the spiritual reality. So obviously within like most of major religions and cultures, we've known about non-human entities or whatever for millennia or whatever. But basically what this new kind of materialist push does is it literalizes the spiritual, which is kind of what the alien gods philosophy is. And you see a lot of investment being put into pushing this idea of the idea that, you know,
that we are
human
Martians,
origins,
and that they were like they
well,
had
not specifically Martians, just the idea that, you know, humanity was seeded by
Martians,
by some sort of superior alien race.
Martians.
This is something you see on the History Channel. You see it in like movies like Prometheus. You see it you see this idea pushed everywhere. The idea that, you know, human origins can sort of be kind of like, you know, given over to the idea that, you know, extraterrestrial life seeded us. And this is kind of a materialist, bleak view of reality, in my opinion. And it seems to be something that a lot of like different things are attempting to push. Like Scientology is basically a UFO religion. It's an alien gods religion, basically. And a lot of the people who are behind the pushing of disclosure currently have ties to Scientology, which I think is really interesting. When I look at the UFO...
Some of them.
When I'm looking at the UFO phenomenon, I'm looking at it from more of a psycho-spiritual perspective. Whereas, you know, these different interests are looking at it from more of a materialistic, literalist perspective in a way that allows them to sort of create a completely new paradigm for human consciousness, which is kind of worrying.
What other disclosure people other than Hal Puthoff have a Scientology?
Tom DeLonge apparently as well.
Does he?
I've heard so, but I'm not 100% sure if that's true.
Is that just a Twitter rumor, or is that like actually information?
It might be a Twitter rumor, but there are a couple. I recommend watching the Gigi Young Morris series because she kind of goes into a lot of detail.
I'm gonna give him a pass for the Scientology thing because he got out of there in like 69 or 70 when it was super early, like when it was almost in that like the Masters phase, like that film kind of with Joaquin Phoenix and what's its name, when it was
but
very
even then, Scientology has like connection to the 3-letter agencies.
When it was way more abstracted, and the Xenu thing didn't even exist at that point. That was not even in the realm of what it was to be a Scientologist.
But the thing is, it's always been part of the doctrine because don't forget L. Ron Hubbard was a Thelemite. And part of Thelima's doctrine is the same alien gods.
That was never in the structure of Scientology until very, very, very late in, like, to L. Ron Hubbard's life.
But what I'm saying
and then when
is,
Hal Puthoff was there, it wasn't that. So I want to give him a pass.
But what I'm saying is Scientology, I'm talking about the sort of intellectual influence. Like Scientology is heavily influenced by Thelema, which is heavily influenced by a lot of these other mystery cults that had this same alien gods ideology, which is really the ideology of the elites. A lot of them believe in this idea. I remember when Gordon White came on and we were talking about Prometheus, and he sort of tried to explain it like, you know, emanation theory, the idea that there's an infinite sort of emanation of material beings going to material spheres and seeding life, and that idea kind of cuts us off from the divine source in a way. It kind of says that we don't have connection to the divine source. We only have connection to it by proxy. And like one of the really interesting Rudolf Steiner talks about this, Gigi Young kind of extrapolates on it, and she sort of talks about how this you know, really cripples our spiritual paradigm and makes us feel servile, and how the elites kind of use it as a control mechanism in that sense. And I think there's kind of something too, because I've always felt there was something fishy surrounding this disclosure phenomenon, and also the political kind of way that and sort of the way that it's entered politics. And you seem really excited and like gung-ho about it, but I'm sort of like, what's going on here, and why is there so much focus on it? What paradigm is being pushed?
I see that's the two paradigms that I'm just trying to explain. Those are the two elite, not even elite forces, but just the two forces I see at play within people that like are willing this thing. It is between people that are curious and want to know it from an objective point of view of how this thing has historically engaged with us, what it is, how it is potentially engaging with us now, why it's here, all of these things, versus using this for another way to control everybody else and to also see more power to you through the claim of like Martian blood and all this other fucking crazy like eugenic-y Nazi shit. Elon. So I don't like that idea, and I like the idea that there's some plucky people that do have good souls.
I believe there are people. I believe there are plucky people. I believe there are plucky people who have good souls that are trying to investigate this phenomenon from a very pure place. But at the same time, it's really hard to discern in this current climate who's who and what interests are working behind it, especially in this sort of parapolitical, post-rational space. Anything kind of goes in this weird nebulous realm. And you do have to be really discerning because, you have so many different characters pushing all kinds of different things with all kinds of different agendas.
Three main figures that one of them I'm 100%, well, not 100% sure he's shifty, but I'm not as sure about. Two of them I am sure are like probably good guys that are plucky good dudes that have basically come out in the last like month or so to talk about the threats they've received for coming out and talking about the information they have in the way that they have. David Grush, I think he's a good dude and not a bad glowy. Lou Elizondo, not sure. I'm not entirely sure about Lou Elizondo.
I don't think David Grush is trustworthy, but anyway, go on.
There you go. And then Gary Nolan, who is a Stanford PhD material physicist, who studies like crash materials and stuff like that.
What the fuck for the win or whatever.
Exactly.
I think there needs to be more plucky good people, but unfortunately, like, the stuff that gets funding, the narrative that's getting funding and that's getting all this sort of traction is the alien gods narrative. Even think about something like Prometheus. That was a multi-million-dollar Hollywood feat. It's pushing the same sort of
that is also
literalist interpretation.
That's not where the most credible
human origin.
That's not where the most credible journalistic people are gravitating around. The most credible journalistic people are gravitating around people like Gary, people like David Grush. Not so much people like Lou Elizondo, because there's still like a fairly big question mark around him, I think, from a lot of people. But both those other two are a lot of Gary hosted a thing called the Soul Foundation fucking whatever the fuck it was, but it was a huge gathering. Diana Pasolka, like Jacques Vallée, all the greatest fucking minds in
ufology.
In ufology. Or I don't even like using that word because that makes it seem like a bad section in Watkins.
Well, I'm glad that they had people like Diana Pasolka present, because it shows that their investigations are at least open to the idea of the spiritual reality being a thing.
Diana Pasolka, U.S. naval people, U.S. fucking CIA people, US, all sorts of people at Stanford. From a closed door thing, which they then released all of their talks in all their different specialties and stuff like that. So this is a proper institution, because Gary is a tenured professor there, and he hosted all of these experts and did all of this thing. So there's like more and more credible ways that people are trying to express their most legitimate information and I think those are the things that like non-crazy people are paying more attention to. And if you are watching Gaia and like Ancient Aliens already, there's not a lot we can do for you.
That's the thing, is the Gaia and Ancient Aliens and all of that shit is like the gateway drug that most normies get their sort of access into these topics through. And I'm sure the people who are behind funding it know that and stuff, which is why the alien gods narrative is sort of the prevailing narrative when it comes to the whole kind of ufology question.
If I were a politician, I'd use that. See, all these people coming out about the threats and stuff they receive about it, though, is kind of a part of why I think that some of them are not. That no politician is really particularly gun-ho about it. There are a couple that are about it, like Tim Burchett and a couple of guys that are like pretty animated about it.
Well, when it comes to space and things like that, under Trump's presidency, the Space Force, or like quote unquote the militarization of space, was another kind of agenda that was adjacent to the UFO kind of discussion at the time in that sense. And there was also kind of speculation that this phenomenon might be used to further justify the weaponization of space in that sense. There's also current wars happening. So there's a lot of interest in getting things up there that kind of improve people's advantages, XYZ. There are like lots of layers to this that intersect with the current political realm in that sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be interesting when more stuff can be openly discussed about it.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're getting
to a point where... that you've hit the wall? Do you think the UFO stuff has kind of hit the wall at the moment?
That's what I opened the segment with. It has hit the wall until actual more evidence comes around. And when a new video comes around, that'll be interesting to talk about and all of those kinds of things. But until there's more actual evidence and movement towards actual further releasing of information and videos and everything else, there's not a lot more to discuss on. You've had the most credible people. There was another commander, or the person that was David Grush's boss, basically, I think, has come out in the last couple of weeks and been giving his whole fucking spiel and talking about the threats he's received, even though he was more senior at a presidential level clearance, which is basically less than 20 people in the US government, or something like that.
Yeah,
he was that high level,
and
he was getting fucking threatened for the stuff that he was investigating.
Wow.
David Grush was his underling or whatever the fuck. And he's been talking about it as well and stuff. So until you've got more and more of this, there's no more credibility you can kind of lend to the issue is kind of my point anymore.
Yeah.
You've got all the credibility you could possibly ask for. If you don't got someone that's ever going to be inclined to look at any information or even change your mind about something about it anymore, then you're not going to be someone that looks at it. But there are no more credible people that you can get talking about this fucking topic than the people that are.
True.
And
True.
We need actual movement with it now.
Greg says real society. Oh shit. Oh yeah, dude. If you look into the sort of doctrines of these weird secret societies, especially of that period, alien gods is at the core of it, and the idea that these people, a certain elite sect of people, are related to the alien gods, and that they have sort of a divine right to rule because of it. This is really part of Nazi esoterica. And part of the reason I really like Gigi Young is because she pointed this out. This was something that I didn't necessarily notice. The fact that, the new age is pretty much overrun with Nazi esoterica. And a lot of that is seeded through this idea of alien gods and superior bloodlines and XYZ. And this has been kind of a motif among the elite for a long time, and their sort of beliefs and XYZ. So that's something to watch for, I guess, as a kind of paradigm that surrounds the ufology, parapolitical, blah, blah, blah space, because it's one that's pushed a lot. And I think Gigi Young's doing God's work by by kind of pointing these things out and stuff. What else is being said? But yeah, I hope there are plucky good guys, because it seems like there are lots of crazy, weird agendas surrounding the disclosure of information.
I think there are.
XYZ.
I think there are a lot of good, legitimate people investigating this stuff, and I think they're gonna hopefully have somewhat of leverage of actual, political systems behind them to uncover some of this stuff.
Do you think it's going to play a role in any of the global elections that are currently happening?
Not currently, but maybe for the next one.
Do you think that's what people keep saying. People keep saying that this election season is going to be really inconsequential, but that the next one is going to be the big one.
It'll be
that we're going to have another 2016.
It'll be as you said, all of this stuff is really important.
Yeah.
All the stuff that we've been talking about is
AI,
world changing.
Yeah.
And all of it will break more in the next 5 years. And we will be frustrated that we haven't used any window,
of this window
the moment
we have,
to try to prepare for that. And that we're then stuck with these useless people that got fucking elected on wedge issues and bullshit.
And total horse shit.
You know,
because everyone's like trapped in their lower chakras. You need to be vibrating higher, guys. Age of Aquarius is here.
Yeah, basically.
You gotta vibrate higher.
Basically.
But yeah, do we have a last topic?
I think that's it. We're over time.
We're over time.
Good. We've rambled enough.
We're good. But yeah, again, if you like my lipstick, it's Clinique Black Honey. It's the best.
You've already given 10 minutes on your lipstick.
I really
routine.
enjoy being asked makeup questions, so feel free to ask me makeup questions every week from now on. But yeah, anyway, it was lovely talking to you guys, and we will. No, you're going to your sister's on Sunday, aren't you?
Yeah.
I will do book club on my own with whoever shows up this Sunday for a movie club. We're watching Jodorowsky's Dance of Reality. More people, please show up because Jake isn't going to be there and I don't want to be lonely. So if you're free this Sunday and you're not doing anything and you're part of our Discord or you want to join our Discord, come discuss Jodorowsky's Dance of Reality with us. It's one of the most beautiful films you'll ever see in your life. It's worth the watch and also worth discussing it with me and some of the other great minds we have in the Discord. Thank you so much, guys, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.